Charles Osazuwa, a man sent by God.
There is no man yet that has what it takes to help God. And every man's allocation is in his location. No man born by a woman is permitted to tell you sorry. I heard what happened. That is not your portion. Your portion is good news in the morning, good news in the afternoon. I'm not a pastor. God sent me to this city. He sent me. This is not a man who is smart. This is not a man who can preach. This is a man undertaking a divine assignment. For I and the children that God has given me, we are made for signs and wonders. Things only work for workers. Nothing will ever work until you work. Seest thou a man diligent in his duties, he shall stand before kings and not ordinary people.
There is none to be compared to him.
Bow down and worship you, oh, Yahweh, Yahweh. Come and do what only you can do.
Just blessing hands and just thanking them.
The value of your seed. There was problem in Israel. David numbered Israel against the directive of God. And now there is need for intervention. 2 Samuel 24 and verse 22. And Araunah said unto David, let my lord the king take and offer up what seemeth good unto him. Behold, here be the oxen for the burnt offering, and threshing floor, instruments, and other instruments of the oxen for wood. Verse 23. All these things did Araunah as the king. Give unto the king. And Araunah said unto the king, the Lord thy God accept your sacrifice. At this point, there was need for sacrifice. He said, the Lord thy God accept your sacrifice. Verse 24. And the king said unto Araunah, please pay attention to this at this point. Not so. I will surely buy it of thee at a price. Neither will I offer burnt offering unto the Lord my God of that which does cost me nothing. So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 shekels of silver. Look at verse 25. Verse 25. Let's read verse 25. All of us want to go. And David built there an altar unto the Lord and offered burnt offering and peace offering. So the Lord was entreated of the land, and the plague was stayed from Israel. David was given for free materials for sacrifice, but he said, I can't raise an altar and put something that cost me nothing. So the value of your seed is what the seed has cost you. If you are going to England and you have a meeting with Queen Elizabeth of England and you need to present a gift to her, what kind of gifts will you give to her? Now, the quality of your seed is the value of your harvest. David said, I will not offer to God that which cost me nothing. So, what lifts you is what determines what lifts God. What lifts the earth is what determines what lifts heaven. Genesis chapter 8 and verse 20. The Bible states clearly, and Noah builded an altar. I've given you the difference between your offering. Now, your offering is free will. As you come in God's presence, the Bible forbids you to come into God's presence empty. Deuteronomy, I think 16 and verse 16 says you should not come into the presence of God without an offering. And the last phrase says, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty. Meaning, anytime you come into God's presence, there must be offering. Now, what is the value of my offering in commensurate with God's blessing on your life? But your tithe is not negotiable. Your tithe is 10% of your income. 10%. Whatever comes into your hand, 10% belongs to God. It's not negotiable. It's a spiritual law. Why is it important to give God 10%? There are unseen battles that you cannot fight. He said, bring your tithe. You pay offering, but you bring tithe. Tithe is being brought while offering is being paid. Say, bring all your tithe into my storehouse, then prove me now. If I will not open the windows of heaven and rebuke the devourer, allow me fight your fighters. Allow me attack your attackers. Let me be your defender so you won't lose your defense. Say, bring your tithe and leave the battles of your life to me, says the Lord. Now, your tithe is a covenant. Your tithe is God's share in your business. Even in the Garden of Eden, you shall eat of every fruit in the garden, but don't touch this one. This one is my tithe. It represents me in the transaction. Hear this. People who don't pay tithe to God, pay to kidnappers, pay to sickness, pay to police, pay to different people. Because your tithe must go to somebody. Either God or the devil. But the good thing about God, he takes 10% and allows you with 90. But Satan takes everything. You will even borrow. You'll be borrowing. After taking the 100, you still be borrowing. Please, can you lend me? This is my land document. This is my car document. Can you help me? Religion is man's attempt to look for God. Christianity is a loving father coming to his children. That's why you have all manner of religious bodies. They are looking for God. But what is Christianity? For God so loved the world, and he sent his only begotten Son, whosoever believeth in him. What was the gospel of Peter in Acts of the Apostle? Whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. Shekiri, Urobo, Igbo, Yoruba, irrespective of status or tribe.
For more blessings and spiritual messages, please join Pastor Charles Osazuwa on the following station.
Now, what is your vow? Your vow is a battle seed. Vows are only engaged when you are fighting battles that are stronger than you. When you look at your circumstance and your battle, you know that this battle, physically, I can't win it, then I bring God in. So your vow is a battle seed. It brings God into your battle. In 1 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 11, and Anna vowed a vow. God came in. So vow provokes the heavens. Vow is a battle seed. Vows are engaged when strength has failed. When everything you have as a human being has collapsed, then vow provokes God and put him in the center of your battle. I see someone here, I don't know where you are sitting. Your vow will break every limitation of the devil around your destiny. I wish that amen could be louder if you are still there. In Genesis chapter 8 and verse 20, and Noah builded an altar and took of every clean beast and of every clean fowl and offered a burnt offering on the altar. Look at verse 21. And the Lord smelled a sweet savour. There is someone here this morning, the Almighty God is about to smell a sweet savour on your life. Your sacrifice will be a sweet savour. If you are anywhere, can I hear your loudest amen? And the Lord God said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground anymore for man's sake. What made God change his mind? The altar, the vow, the seed, the sacrifice. The sacrifice. Now in verse 22, there was a legislative declaration. Why the earth remains signed into law. This was a legislative declaration signed into law because God is executive, legislature, judiciary. Because the Bible referred to him as the judge. He's also the lawgiver. He's also the chief executive. So he combines the three offices. But for this is a legislative declaration. Why the earth remains, seed becomes the only way, becomes the principle that makes you a financial principal. How can you explain? I came into Benin with 68,000. But today, look at what God is doing. This is a legislative declaration. Why the earth remain, and as long as there is earth, seed becomes the only way. The only way. The seed time and harvest and winter and cold shall never cease. Why the earth remain. So give, and it shall be given back to you. Say, Lord, say, bring your tithe. Then prove me now. I had a testimony of a young man that had migraine headache for 2 years. Serious, terrible migraine headache for 2 years. Then he began to practice tithe and said to God, migraine headache is a devourer. Without drugs, without treatment, the headache left. Because once the right law is in place, things just move beautifully. I believe God that your seed will produce the desired harvest. If that is you, can I hear your loudest amen? In Psalm 50 and verse 5, he said, gather my saints together, but put a separation, those that have gone into covenant with me by sacrifice. Say, put the church together, but separate tithers, separate givers, separate those that have deliberately, practically, consciously entered into covenant with me by their sacrifice, by their giving. Say, put them aside. Gather my sons together. Those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice, by their giving. Now hear this. When decisions about your life is being taken, you are not there. But sacrifice has the ability to speak where human voices are silent. Sacrifice has the ability to speak where your voice will not be heard. Lift up your right hand to heaven. As the Lord God liveth, every tithe, every sacrifice on this altar will speak in your favor. Yeah. Genesis chapter 4 and verse 6. You know, God was telling Cain, why is your countenance fallen? Genesis 4 and verse 6. If thou doest well. And the Lord said unto Cain, why art thou angry? And why is thy countenance fallen? Verse 7. If thou doest well, if you had given the acceptable offering, if you have paid the acceptable vow, if you have done the right thing, hear me. I can't count how many times I've emptied myself for God. I can't count, countless. There can be need in this church and I have money in the bank. It's not possible. My conscience will not even allow me. There can be need in the house of God and I'm keeping money in their bank. It's not possible. I'm God's treasurer. That's the mentality I carry. That whatever comes into my hand is for the work. I told you of a young man 8 years ago, 9 years ago. He was looking for cab, taxified. 8 years after, they had a project in their church. He was giving 1 billion. Small boy with jeans. He's in technical department in their church. 1 billion. Sent it. Can I tell you something? I have seen ex-governors broke. Many former ministers in the last 4 years are begging. I was at the Senate during the week, and for me to gain access, they have to call at the gate.
And I asked why. Why the security? They said, most of the people you see here are beggars. They are mounting pressure on senators. They are coming to beg. So we have a resolution to stop them from coming to harass senators. I say, wow. Among those who came to beg were former senators. You know, we used to be colleagues now. Colleague, I have some medical bill to pay. Please help me. Former senators were being stopped from entering the chamber because they are beggars. Can I tell you something? If God withdraws from you, you are finished. If God takes off his defense, then you are defenseless. I've seen one celebrated rich man today that are paupers. It's your sacrifice that put you permanently on top. Your sacrifice, your giving. The day you start paying tithe in millions, then you have conquered poverty for life. The day you start paying your tithe, 3 million, 4 million, forever you have secured your next generation. I said to you on Tuesday, if you are afraid of figures, you will never be rich. If you are afraid of figures, you will never conquer poverty. And I ask you a question. God said, give me 10% and keep 90%. How come your 90% is not your problem? It's 10% that belongs to God that is your problem. You can't sleep at night. You are saying 10%, 2 million, 2.5. That's supposed to be God. 2 million, 2.5. This 2 million, 2.5. If I invest it, if I do this, you are calculating God's portion and leaving your own portion. Then God will not look down. Okay, since you don't want to give me my tithe, I'm taking all for free. What will you do? Lift up your hands. Say, Lord, let my seed speak for me in places where my voices are not heard. If that is you, can I hear your loudest say amen? In Acts chapter 4, verse 36, and Joseph, whom by the apostle was surnamed Barnabas, which is being interpreted the son of consolation, a Levite of the country of the Cyprus. Verse 37, having land, sold it, and brought the full money, and laid it at the apostles' feet. Having land, gave it. Having land, sold it, and brought the full money. Now hear this. In 1993, one of the richest men at the time, MKO Abiola, ran to be president of Nigeria. The whole world said that he won, but he was never sworn in. One of the greatest Yoruba men that ever lived, Obafemi Awolowo, was never president. That simply shows the limitation of your physical strength, the limitation of your human energy. Whereas there are people who didn't fight for it, they just brought them and they were crowned. Now hear me. Your seed from this day will open doors that prayers cannot open. Doors that fasting cannot open. Doors all over. If that is you, can I hear your loudest say amen? If I want to tell my life story, I'm a product of seed. One day we had a reverend from Port Harcourt, Reverend Levi, preaching in our church many years ago. The first time I heard revelation on the altar like never before. The man of God said, you say Jehovah Jireh, that is somebody's altar. Jehovah Nissi, that is somebody's altar. Jehovah this, that is somebody's altar. What is the name of your own altar? My eyes were open. As at that time, everything we had in our life was about 1.something million. He said, give sacrifice and give it a name. And I heard my wife, we gave Jehovah Power City. I think it was about 1 million that we gave. By the time that money left us, nothing was left. This place that is called City of David was first called Power City before God changed it. Now, that 1 million was the price to buy this land. Because as soon as the sacrifice put up a name, the sacrifice was searching for the land, looking for the land. And the sacrifice brought us here. You know, in that same service, we had women that have never had children. They called their own Jehovah babies. Some had twins, and anyhow, people started having children anyhow. And that is what is going to happen after the 8th of December. Anyhow. Blessings anyhow. Miracles anyhow. Open doors everywhere. Jehovah Power City. It was so real to me, so strong in my spirit. And I knew it was God speaking. Say, what is the name of your own altar? And it began to speak for me. Why the earth remains. Divine legislature. It says, seed will never cease. It's the principle. And now this is the danger thing about giving. It does not only answer to Christians, it's also answer to unbelievers. That is why Bill Gates today spend a large percentage of his earning on Africa, on charity. What Bill Gates spend on charity is bigger than some countries' budget. It's not a fool. It's not that he loves people. It's a principle that he found. I don't want to be rich. I want to be blessed. Because you can be rich without being blessed. But you can't be blessed without commanding riches. Now, what is the difference? Rich people die with their riches. But blessed people transfers to the next generation. The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, the God of Joseph, the God of Osazuwa. They transfer their blessing to the next generation. But when you are rich, all the lands and properties you have, my children will buy all because he's blessed.
Praise God, there's good news. All students in University of Benin, Rock of Ages, now have a bus in Hall 2 car park. Now, wherever you are within the school environment, Hall 1, Hall 2, Hall 4, within that school environment, there is a bus in Hall 2 car park. I want you to take advantage of it. Now, if you live in Upper Sakmomba, there is a luxurious bus in Upper Sakmomba by Norma. You need to take advantage of this. Now, all Rakite who live around Wasota, Ugbawa axis, go to Iluobe petrol station by Wasota Junction. There is a bus to bring you to City of David. Now, this is very important. Now, good news to all our members and record from Delta State, Ogara Polytechnic. There is a coastal bus there within Ogara axis, within Utesi and Environ. Just check the details on the screen. The transport has been reorganized, re-strategized to make sure that no family in Benin remains at home on a Sunday. Listen, why do you need to be in Raqqa? It's a move of God. And every move of God moves people. In Proverbs chapter 25 and verse 25, as cold water is to a thirsty soul, so is good news from a far country. There is no far church, provided the spiritual content and the power of God is in that place. There is no hospital too far for the sick. I want you to join me this Sunday. The buses will all be positioned by 6 a.m. in the morning. Please take advantage of over 30 buses that have been spread across the city. You need to be in the City of David, the place of the current move of God in the city of Benin. Looking forward to see you. God bless you.